How long are we going to spend searching outside for things we already have within? I feel like a lot of times we look in the external for things that we may need internally, for things that may be seeking us internally. And what I mean by that is, what you seek is probably seeking you. And that is to say that a lot of the aspects in our life, a lot of the things that, cause us pain, cause us trauma, cause us stress are things internal. They're not so much governed by the external world as we may think. Maybe the initial, cause of it, but everything after, everything that, we kind of linger on to, the need for validation, the insecurity. I feel like all of that is an internal thing. And, the more we look for it outside, the more we lose track of it inside. And that's not to say that, the problems aren't there. That's to say that, you know, we're looking for an external fix to an internal problem. And I feel like a lot of times it doesn't work out just because it's that way. You have to somewhat give it to yourself in a way, but not in like a you don't need anything else kind of sense, but in a sense that you know what you need at the bottom line at the end of the day. And as much as we off put it to the external world and wait for a circumstance to happen to show us that maybe we're validated, maybe we're secure enough for something, it may not be 100% accurate. It may not be 100% there. I feel like in looking externally for stuff we already deal with internally, we lose ourselves. We lose track of what we're actually supposed to be doing. And I feel like a lot of self-improvement, self-development, self-cultivation in that sense is about focusing within and realizing the deficiencies you have and learning how to give those to yourself. I feel like that's where true individualization and self becomes real. In my experience, being able to, tap within and realize, some of the validation you may need in life isn't so much governed by everything else. It's about believing yourself, being comfortable with your own opinions, your own viewpoint, your own perspective of the world. Because you're the only one who can share that perspective. No one else can stand in your shoes and see the world exactly how you do. That's not to say, only look at your perspective, but to say value it just as much as you would value someone else's. I feel like a lot of the life we live is in reference to others, but never in reference to ourselves. And it should always be in reference to ourselves, not in a narcissistic way, not in a I don't care about other people's opinions way, but in a I know my opinion kind of way. I know myself. I know how I feel about this. I know how I can manage the situation. I know how I can move from it. I feel like we don't take the time to acknowledge that. Acknowledgement of the self, acknowledgement of, who we want to be, who we are, and how we want to progress in this world. I feel like most of that starts with realizing what parts of you are seeking out your assistance, seeking out your help so you can change for the better. The parts of you that look in the mirror and be like, oh, I want to change that. But that change isn't going to happen just by some miracle. There's a chance it will, but it's not going to happen just from you looking at the external world and be like, oh, yeah, now this is a certain way. All change for the self is going to be an internal thing. Whether or not an external circumstance helps aid that something, it's going to be an internal thing regardless. And I think in setting up that dichotomy, that duality, that relationship between your internal and external worlds, you're allowed to sort of progress how you want, progress how you need in a way. I feel like once you realize that it's about your internal factors and how you're taking care of yourself internally and how you're contributing to the parts of yourself that lack, what you're doing to fill in the vacancies of your being. I talked about it in my last video how a lot of us will tear down our structure and try to rebuild ourselves elsewhere and build the exact same structure, only to realize that we're going to have the same structural problems. It's not about rebuilding. It's about creating something new. It's about renovation, taking out the parts of ourselves that are negatively holding us back and replacing them with something positive. You know, in saying that what we seek is seeking us, or what you seek is seeking you, I mean, we have to realize what parts of ourselves are seeking us for negative gain. You know, what parts of us are seeking us so we can get rid of them in a way. Get rid of them in the sense of change them for the better. Like, what aspects of ourselves are somewhat being carried, somewhat being used as baggage for maybe a past version of ourselves. Because one thing I kind of not fail to realize is a lot of the problems that people have are consistent through their whole life. And part of that I feel like is because they always feel like their future self is going to be more suited to fix that issue. Like, for example, I just saw a video. I have my friends send me videos of myself from previous years. And I saw the video from when I was like 14, 15. And I remember being in that scenario and somewhat feeling the same way about certain things that I still feel today. And that's not necessarily a negative thing. It's just helped me realize that, that change isn't going to happen just from some chance. It's not going to be an external thing. Nothing in my life is going to just flip and then all of a sudden I'm all better, freed from all my restrictions in that way. The only way to free myself from my restrictions is to, one, act now, or at least take the steps, put it in my head that I want that certain thing to happen and realize that I actually can do it. And two, to realize that the problem is not so much a lingering thing as I might perceive it. And in saying that, I mean that I think sometimes we view our problems as a part of ourselves. We treat our issues as if they're part of our identity. We treat our downfalls or mistakes as if they're part of who we are. And that's not always the case. That's not mostly the case. I feel like as long as we're able to reflect, as long as we're able to make change from it, not repeat the same mistakes, not, of course, with a little grain of salt, you have to give yourself grace. But what I've realized is that, we're only human. You're going to have your ups and downs, but it's about how you react to those downs and how you react to those ups that make the quality of the person, in my opinion. I feel like a lot of us fall down all the time, but a lot of us get up. Sometimes you have to pat yourself on the back just for falling down. Falling down is an act of success in my sense. It means you were standing. And get it back up's all the more better. It's about realizing that, all the parts of yourself that you seek out in the world, you already have within you. You already have them within you. It's not something that's going to get shown to you. It's something you have to show yourself. We contain multitudes. We contain anything we want to contain. We as people, we as conscious beings have unlimited potential for our expression, for our cultivation and how we interact with the world. Of course, with a grain of salt, people are different, personalities are different. But what you want to achieve, as long as it's humanly possible, you too can do it. I feel like people set up those structures in their head not to. I think some of us inherently are afraid of success. And I feel like I was at one point too, only because, I didn't feel so much deserving of it. I didn't feel like I could handle it or my mental could. I feel like, well, maybe my ego is going to go rampant. I don't know. But I feel like as long as you're asking yourself those questions, I feel like that mentality is somewhat healthy in the sense that you're going to keep track of yourself when stuff happens. Not get lost in maybe so much external things, but still focus on cultivation of the internal. Focus on cultivating yourself into something you want, something you can respect. So everything around you just embodies that. The better you feel about yourself, I think the better your life will be in general. If less stuff is seeking you, you're going to seek less stuff. And you're just going to start to observe. You're just going to start to see things. Things are going to just show themselves to you in ways you probably hadn't seen them before. And I feel like that's when I feel like I've seen the most change when I realize that it's kind of my responsibility and I have to treat myself like someone I'm trying to help, not just like a general person, not just like a bystander in my own life, but realizing that my change has to happen for me. It's my change after all. It's my expression, my consciousness, my life. No one else can live my potential for me. I have to live it for myself. And the same thing goes for everyone else. You know, you have to take yourself seriously. This is your sign to go all in. No, but really, it's about knowing yourself, taking enough time with yourself to realize what parts of you are longing for your attention, what parts of you are longing for your direct stimulation. Because I feel like a lot of aspects of ourselves are looking for us. They're looking for a version of ourselves so they can help, so they can be helped in a way. And I feel like we wait for that change. We wait for ourselves to turn into certain people to solve our problems. But I feel like sometimes it takes conscious effort to aid your growth. Not always, certain circumstances allow people to change and grow for the better, but sometimes for the worse. And I feel like as long as we have that conscious hand, we're allowing ourselves to alter our perspective to mainly benefit who we are and who we're becoming. So with all things, I always say be intentional. Be intentional with how you place your care. Be intentional with how you look at the world and what you're deriving and understand the patterns of your actions. And realize how it may be representative of something you're lacking. All in all, be a friend to yourself. Always realize that you have yourself in the corner. You're the only person that's going to be with you 100% of the time. So you have to make sure that you like who you're with. And if you don't, do things to make yourself. Tell yourself. Do whatever like you like to do and make sure it's for you. And if you think it's morally wrong what you're doing, then change it. Replace it with something positive. Give it your best effort to be the best version of yourself. But always give yourself, grace. Don't be too hard on yourself. It's a high standard and I don't even live up to it. I'm just a person who talks. All in all, thank you guys so much if you made it to this far in this video. Thank you if you haven't. I really appreciate all of y'all. I'm reading all your comments. I honestly love the support I get, and I love being able to help y'all out, even if it's in minuscule ways every day. I'm gonna keep the same upload schedule. I don't see a reason to change it. All in all, y'all keep being great, and I appreciate you.